Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. I am PVSB, one of the aforementioned CPG Guys, and when I'm not podcasting, I am the Vice President of Partner Strategy and Development at Fetch Rewards, a mobile loyalty platform. As usual, I'm joined in the cockpit of this aircraft by the best co-pilot I could hope for. He's actually right here with me in person, IRL, hashtag IRL. Okay. He is the CPG industry icon that we've all come to know by one name, and that is Sri. Sri, how are you?
Icons in our own minds, Peter.
We are legends in our own mind.
What a great week. Do you know why?
Why is it a good week?
Not because I'm in Chicago, seeing you in person. The Yankees are in first place for the entire AL.
Not just the division.
AL.
The American League. Mm-hmm. That's for our educational focused audience, AL, American League.
American League.
That's great. Well, I know. I'm pretty happy, man. Life is good. We've got a whole lot of baseball games lined up this summer, Sri.
What can I say?
What are we doing? We're going to go to Denver, see the Dodgers. We're going to All-Star game. It's a baseball extravaganza this year for us.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, Sri, I'm looking forward to that. So good to be here with you in person. Before we get to our guest in today's episode, I want to remind our audience that our content Sri, we've published 200 episodes, like in 2 years.
Holy cannoli.
Holy cannoli.
Holy cannoli.
Yeah, that's a lot. Where do people go where do they find that?
All you got to do is cpgguys.com. It's not that hard.
cpgguys.com. I love that. Yeah, we send them there, and they should follow us too. Where do we put most of our content?
LinkedIn, man, and it's actually easy on LinkedIn.
How do you follow us on LinkedIn?
Go to linkedin.com.
Yeah, or if they can use the app on their phone.
Open the LinkedIn app.
Yeah.
Not that hard.
Yeah.
Go to the search up top.
Yep.
All you got to do is type CPG Guys. And then when you get the search results, hit the blue plus follow button, also known as follow. Follow the CPG Guys.
Follow the CPG Guys. Follow the CPG Guys. Follow. Okay,
keep your day job.
Of that.
Keep your day job.
I'll keep
your day job.
Hey, did you know that we're also in partnership with a really outstanding organization called Next Up? Used to be known as Network of Executive Women. They rebranded recently, and in the middle of every Wednesday episode, we have a little Easter egg, a message about Next Up, some upcoming events that they've got planned, a way for you to engage. So, and also, of course, their CEO, Sarah Alter, has a really great podcast called Advancing All Women. We recommend people go download that. You can find our list of favorite podcasts by going to cpgguys.com. We've launched a second podcast just earlier today. We were talking with our friends Daniel and Ephraim, who are the FMCG guys, or fast-moving consumer goods. They've taken the CPG Guys platform, our format, over to Europe, as you would say, and they're talking to all sorts of European-based luminaries in fast-moving consumer goods and retail. So just go to fmcgguys.com, open up your favorite podcast platform, enter FMCG Guys. You'll find it that way. Please give it a listen. All right. So today, Sri and I are very pleased to welcome an e-commerce digital strategy and marketing professional at the forefront of innovation and change in the consumer goods industry. At a very young, tender age of 6 in the early 90s, I was a 6 in the 70s, Sri. Wow, I'm feeling old.
So was I.
I know.
You are not alone.
I know I'm not alone. His dad bought him a 386. You remember an old Intel 386 base?
That was like my 4th generation PC.
I know.
Did you do punch cards?
I did have punch cards.
There we go.
Yeah. Dad shelled out $3,000, which at the time was like a serious amount of cash. He must really loved his son.
Our guest has no idea what a punch card is.
And it really sparked his continuing curiosity about everything related to technology.
A punch card is not a train ticket or a bus ticket with a punch.
All right. The other great thing about him is he benefited from that early education, and he's paying it back by mentoring early stage startups and entrepreneurs from all over the world. He's an avid fan of hackathons. I love hackathons. And he's also a startup bus mentor and alumni, the most intense 72-hour startup hackathon in the world. It's like the Iron Man of hackathons, right?
Whoa.
And shares his productivity hacks on his personal blog, Imteaz.com, which we'll include in the digital liner notes of this episode, right? He's an Australian native who spent the last 13 years working for Reckitt, whose purpose is to protect, heal, and nurture in the relentless pursuit of a cleaner, healthier world. That's pretty noble. His career spanned across living in Sydney, London, Amsterdam. For the last 2 years, he's here in the United States. Prior to his current role, he worked as the director of eCommerce technology and operations. Recently, he assumed the role of director of performance marketing, I think that's Omnichannel, Shrey, for Reckitt's nutrition portfolio. He's here to speak with us about all the transformation going on in engaging consumers in a digitally driven age. Please join Shree and me in welcoming to the CPG Guys podcast, Imteaz Ahamed. Imteaz, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Peter. Hi, Shree. Thank you for having me on the show. And Peter, it was lovely to connect with you earlier in the year at Shop Talk in Vegas.
Yeah, I would encourage anybody to go to LinkedIn. You'll see a picture of us, me and my CPG guys swag, and I think we were over at the Criteo booth, and we had a lovely little conversation and made sure to share some of the social media love, right? I know, CPG guys. And we're gonna get you some branded logo stuff too. So that's coming your way as well. So before we get to the questions Shree and I have prepared for us, why don't Shree and I are in the industry, we know what Reckitt does, but it would probably be good for you to tell our audience about the company, some of the brands they're probably familiar with, maybe some they aren't, and what specifically you're doing with the nutrition division.
So Reckitt's been around for a very long time. The original company was Bankiza, and it was founded in 1823 in Germany. So a lot of heritage and a lot of big brands. We have three dedicated BUs across hygiene, health, and infant nutrition. And we have brands like very common household brands like Lysol, Airwick, Mucinex, Durex, and KY, as well as Enfamil. So my role in the company now is looking after e-commerce performance marketing or omnichannel marketing for the infant nutrition business here in the US, and specifically managing that lower funnel media across all of our retailers.
Thank you for that. And I got to tell you, knowing the category you're in, there is an enormous amount going on in terms of supply chain issues and all sorts of competitive activities. So I can imagine it's a really exciting time. Thank you for that. What we're going to do is in the digital liner notes of the podcast episode, for our audience, you're going to find a hyperlink to Imteaz's LinkedIn profile, Reckitt's LinkedIn page, and their website so that you can learn more about that. So why don't we get to the questions that we've prepared? Shree, do we have the big spotlight where we shine it down on him and start grilling him? No, we don't do that anymore.
I was going to ask for the drum roll.
The drum roll. Okay. Hey, can you walk it? Because I alluded to it in the introduction. You've had a very interesting career progression. Certainly, a good chunk of that within Reckitt. Can you walk us through that progression where you started out in just doing territory sales and how you reach performance marketing, and maybe highlight what you consider some of the pivotal points where you saw transformation and you kind of leaned in to this incredibly digitally driven world that we're now finding ourselves in?
Yeah, so I started as a grad back in Australia at the tender age of 20 for Reckitt. I hadn't even finished university at the time. Reckitt hired me before I finished, and I was working full-time and finishing my degree part-time initially. And then 6 years into my career, I'd been doing sales. When you're going through a commercial function in a CPG company, you have a very specific path that you can follow in order to keep growing through the company. Then this opportunity for e-commerce came through, where the company and the senior management in Australia at the time needed to allocate someone to jump into e-commerce. And At the time, we couldn't find anybody qualified enough to do it, so they just picked me because I was good with Excel and PowerPoint, and I could fix computers when they wouldn't work during an important presentation. So I jumped into this e-commerce role. I have no background in digital marketing at the time, or even e-commerce in particular. And I just start learning, and I just start reaching out to what I could Google and find across the internet. And this is back in like 2014. This thing called Startup Bus comes on my Facebook feed, and it looks really interesting. I apply for Startup Bus. I get on Startup Bus. I don't know how, but I by chance I get on this thing. And what Startup Bus is, it's a hackathon on a bus where you go from one destination to another destination. And it kicked off in the US, where these bunch of guys went from San Francisco to South by Southwest. So you get on this bus, 3 types of people on this bus. There's a hacker, hipster, and a hustler. So a hacker is like a code person, a hipster is a design and UX person, and a hustler is business and sales and project management. So I'm a hustler.
I hope they had a driver too, because otherwise you're not really going very far. But okay, that sounds. Yeah, I know. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
So you get on the bus, you pitch an idea, you organically form teams, and then within the space of 3 days, you have to build a business, launch the business, and raise money. So together with 5 other people on the bus that I was on, we launched a company called SpexyMe, which back in 2014 was making custom designed 3D printed glasses that are fitted to your face using augmented reality. So we built this thing. We even signed a commercial agreement with a 3D printer at the time, who literally printed a pair of our first glasses and delivered it to me 15 minutes before I actually had to pitch at SidStart in Sydney. So going through this experience for me kind of showed me that from a agility and pace point of view, to really do stuff in digital, you have to work at a very different pace to what we're used to in CPG. So that was really a pivotal moment for me to really understand how differently digital operates to what I was used to. And then from a transformation point of view, how do we need to work more collaboratively across departments within within a very big organization in order to drive the change that consumers are looking for from a product and a service point of view.
Imteaz, welcome to the show. And I did tell you both that we talk about buses and punch card tickets, and it did come true. Get off the bus.
Get off the bus.
Get it?
Yeah. Seriously, I hope they had a driver. Because
in all seriousness, welcome to the CPG Guys podcast, Imteaz. You know, so far we've been discussing about you starting at the tender age of 6, eventually evolving to become an early pioneer in the area of e-commerce. I've kind of done the same 10 years ago, but you started that in Australia 8 years ago. So I'm sure you have mega strong, not MAGA, mega.
We don't
mega strong opinions.
Correctly,
MEGA, strong opinions on how consumer goods organizations have to prepare themselves for what I would call we're already past the halfway mark for the digital transformation. But in your words, can you summarize what are those key enablers that CPG companies should be leveraging in this transformation to actually see successful outcomes?
So I look at it from 3 things. 1 is people, 2 is process, and 3 is platforms. And I'm going to address each one of these as we go. I'm going to start with platforms because that's where most people would usually start when they think about what is digital transformation. So platforms, in my opinion, are not the answer for CPG, and it's probably the last place you should go from a digital transformation point of view. You can speak to all the big tech brands out there, and you can buy all of the best of breed technology. But ultimately, if you're not solving meaningful problems for your consumers, you're just buying lots of Ferraris to park in a very expensive car park. When in reality, you first need to learn how to, use a go-kart first within this digital world. Secondly is process. So CPGs are built for supply chains that were built in the 90s and the 2000s, and were also built for annual range reviews with our retailers. Now, in my world, the half-life of a tweet is about 9 minutes, and a TikTok trend lives for about 7 days. So the answer to this isn't necessarily just, thinking about how do we build a print-on-demand 3D printed inventory organization to deliver everything in the last minute, but look at the existing processes that we have within an organization and really understand how we can strip it back to really delivering that value. Like if it's taking a company 18 months to do a line extension, and then it took them 18 months to decide on making that line extension, there's something fundamentally wrong, because the way in which trends are moving on a consumer level, specifically within CPG, is so much faster than that. So before you start anything from a process point of view, one of the key things that we need to activate is creative and content. And the demand for creative and content is so fast now that if you can't, approve content within an organization in days, before you try and buy some, fancy technology, you probably want to fix that process first. Finally, and most importantly, digital transformation only happens when you have the right people leading the change from the inside out and not the outside in. Having executive level sponsors that truly give people like me the space to do and learn and take bets ahead of the curve simply because you can see that the trend is your friend really delivers that transformation. And by the way, I'm not a fan of the phrase test and learn because for many people that implies that, the activity that you're doing, the test, is not important enough. So to sum up, digital transformation has to be thought of through the lens of people, process, and platforms, and not just technology in isolation.
Hey, on the CPG Guys, we've often said that direct-to-consumer is a non-negotiable imperative for scaled consumer brands. Imteaz, what are your thoughts on this, and what were the capabilities that you needed to have in place to execute a successful D2C strategy for the brands you were working on? Like, how does Reckitt define direct-to-consumer? Some of them, what I mean by that is it full supply chain? Is it partial? And do you ever think, it's an uphill battle against digitally native vertical brands that you're competing against?
So at Reckitt, we define D2C as directly selling to a consumer via one of our own digital properties. So, for example, one of our own websites or apps. So from a capability point of view, in terms of D2C, and when we started this, the capabilities didn't exist internally. So, you have to hire external talent and you have to get agency support. But a lot of this you need to address hand in hand with the point that I talked about in terms of people, process, and platforms. And more specifically, learning to be an order level business, and that's an e-commerce order level business rather than a case pack or pallet level business, is a huge shift that CPGs would have to make in order to understand D2C properly, because you're not shipping in pallets to a consumer anymore. You're shipping individual units or SKUs at an order level, which, for a lot of financial systems and process within CPG is fundamentally different to what they used to. So do I think it's an uphill battle for CPGs versus DNVBs? I think if you think like a traditional CPG and you do what you've always done and you just launch a website that has a checkout gateway and some fulfillment option through UPS, I think you've completely missed the point of D2C and you ultimately will fail. So the role of D2C in my mind is about two things. Number one, you deliver an experience to your consumer that they can't get anywhere else, and you meaningfully solve problems for them. And number two, you leverage that 1P data that you now have, obviously in a compliant way, to find similar consumers that are out there on the internet and, very soon out there in the metaverse. So, to think about this from to think about this in a different point of view, Like DNVBs, they have speed, but they don't necessarily have capital and distribution. Whereas CPGs, we have capital and distribution, but we lack speed. So given that we kind of know what our strengths and weaknesses are, this is, how you find the opportunity to scale up. So when you're actually looking at many of the digitally native brands, they're actually going to offline now in order to acquire new customers, because Google and Facebook simply getting too expensive to acquire customers. So I only really see DNVBs being a threat if they are profitable. And if you see hundreds and hundreds of them pop up in a particular category, that could mean, losing 1,000 or 2,000 basis points of share for a CPG over the course of 5 years. So unless if you fundamentally change how you're interacting with your consumer and delivering a better experience from them that's bigger than just product, you're not going to win in the long run, is my view.
So I want to kind of dive into that space, D2C, just a tad bit more, right? So let's talk a little bit about standing up a D2C business, right? What's your opinion on learnings about establishing digital marketing and workflow automation in that space? And then the next thing I'd tell you is talent recruitment. Digital, e-commerce, D2C, all of this requires specialized talent. While they need to know CPG, it's a niche set of skills that may not be a one-for-one overlap. So did you in-house people, hire them in? Did you outsource to agencies? Or what were those building blocks that you had to put together?
So all of the things you listed, Sri, I've tried them. I've done in-house, I've done external, I've done hybrid. And from my point of view, hybrid is probably where we want to be and where we are, because when you want to do some scaling, it's very hard to find the right talent in the right place very quickly and to get the right levels of skills and capability. But then on the flip side of that, when you need ownership and you need people to drive that agenda and drive the performance, it's not always easy to work with agency partners to do that, because you don't have that continual learning that you need to kind of house internally as well. So I think the biggest thing I've learned here is that you kind of need to be prepared to learn, unlearn, and learn again. And there's not always going to be that perfect answer. And the answer is going to be very different per category anyway. So all you need to get used to is constant change and constant evolution. The key is, to ask yourself, if you want to launch D2C, where do you think that D2C business could be in 2 to 3 years' time? And how do I get the resources to make that happen tomorrow? Rather than, I can't justify a P&L that delivers nothing right now, because then you'll never start and you'll never do it.
I want to remind our audience that today Sri and I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with Imteaz Ahamed from Reckitt, and he is the director of Omnichannel Performance Marketing. So in your new role that I've just described, you seek to drive holistic success for infant nutrition. How do you align measurement principles in brick and mortar versus e-commerce now that you have an omni-channel responsibility? What are your core operating principles in this respect?
Thank you for that question. And, it takes me back to Shop Talk, where Nancy King, who's the SVP of Product Engineering at Target, she spoke about having aligned KPIs that drive overall business results for the total business of Target, rather than just looking at things in isolation. When upwards of 20 to 30% of your sales are happening through e-commerce / omni, and accounts for the bulk of your growth, ensuring that everyone in the business is working together is absolutely mission critical. So at the end of the day, our job is to serve our consumer, and hopefully through what our brands and products promise, we're actually doing a better job than our competitors. So everybody within that team needs to be tied to the same overall objective. And at Target, it's about driving that that total business performance at the top line, as well as delivering on the bottom line. So, and as well as delivering on market share. So looking at the contribution of online versus offline within a CPG is, very important, but also ensuring that there's total growth. Because, I remember getting asked at the beginning of my career all the time about how incremental is online. Are we just, cannibalizing offline sales? Why do you need more resources? Why do you need all of this additional cost and technology to do e-commerce? And now we see it, which is, the overall growth of a business is coming, specifically in CPG in many, many categories, is coming from e-commerce. Now, if that contribution is not higher than the total growth of the business, then you have cannibalization. But overall, what I've experienced in my career is e-commerce is driving the bulk of the growth, and that's why we need to evolve and change.
Thank you for highlighting the total growth accountability, because total brand growth at the end of the day is proportional to market share growth. And it's important to understand that even for the brand growth, you want to make sure you grow your share so that you're getting your fair share of the category. So now,
Shree's favorite topic.
Thank you. Retail media, which has of course become a buzzword, now a household word in brands and in consumer good companies. A considerable component of the marketing mix for CPG brands looking to win search. A lot of this is going into search. Is this a centralized activity or Reckitt? Do the trade teams leave this? Is sales and shopper marketing responsible? What are the guiding principles you use in investing against retail media? And do you need to be invested in every retail media platform that exists?
So search and performance marketing is not a skill set that I see a CAM would typically do. In my opinion, it should be done separately because media buying KPIs and media buying understanding is very different to selling to a buyer. So in terms of my guiding principles, I would think that category by category, you need to have very different KPIs from a media performance tracking point of view, based on things like how frequently is that product purchased, what is the average weight of purchase of that product, will consumers drop out after buying that product after 6 months, etc. So new to brand is a metric that I love to measure for looking at absolute new users coming into a particular brand over time, because it shows that you're growing you're going to be growing market share because you're growing absolute number of new users. But that's not necessarily a metric that's important for every category. But coming to your question on retailer selection, my thinking on this is that you need to be active where your consumers are. Through COVID, specifically, we're seeing on-demand just explode, and you just have to be there because there is potential market share loss if you're not. And if your competitors are already there, then, and they're exposing themselves ahead of yourself, specifically on category search, then, that's a huge opportunity for them and a huge risk for you.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. Yeah, Shree and I, as we talk to professionals, there is no definitive direction or alignment around, is it headquarters marketing driven? Is it trade account management driven? I guess it depends upon the uniqueness of your organization and what seems to work well. So thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to my favorite topic, Shree. You think if yours is retail media, mine is 1P data. So
I thought you were going to ask me the question what it is.
What is my favorite topic?
It's 1P data.
It's 1P data. See,
is that your day job too?
Yeah.
Fetch Rewards.
Fetch Rewards mobile loyalty platform. I think it is.
Which results in 1P data.
1P data. Wow, that is great. Shameless plug. Yes, audience.
I don't know about the plug. I mean, it's your day job.
But it is. I mean, it is who I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, it really can enable a deeper relationship with your consumer. So how does 1P data play into your performance marketing efforts at Reckitt? And are you sourcing it from beyond your own direct-to-consumer channel?
So in our nutrition business, we've had a long-standing CRM program that spans back decades, and it has been delivering samples, coupons, and product information, and information about a consumer helpline as well for I think about 20 years now. So all of this data sits in our CDP, and it's been absolutely fascinating to tie this up to our D2C data and look at various new metrics for us that we never had access to before. So I had the privilege of being exposed to shopper marketing back when I was in Australia, and to look at loyalty metrics, substitutability metrics across the board for retailers like Woolworths and Coles. Now, given the volume of sales that we've had through our D2C channels, we can start to see that individual level, transactional level, media level interaction that each person is having with us. So how did we acquire them? What did they buy? What frequency did they buy? Why did they choose the products that they chose? Which emails did they open in order to actually make that purchase and or subscribe? So all of these new metrics that I now have is really cool, because you take all of this information, you put it into the cloud, you process that, and then you build lookalike models on Google and Facebook to find more consumers like that. So this is what's really, really interesting right now. And on top of that, it's opened new metrics for us. One of my favorites, outside of looking at lifetime value of our users and when they're opting into our brands versus when they're churning out, is what we call PUPPY. So PUPPY stands for profit per user per year. So given that you're acquiring them through D2C, you basically look at their LTV, you take away the product COGS of what you sold to them, then you take away how much did it cost to actually deliver that product to them, then you take away how much did it cost to acquire them, and you ultimately come to a profit calculation per user. So then you can segment that across different media channels, different product sets, different times of the year that you've acquired those customers, and really optimize for profit against each and every individual user, and then you can scale that up to cohorts of users. So as a person who grew up with Nielsen at the beginning of my career, to move to an environment where now I can see individual level consumer interactions and the impact on profit per user, is a different ballgame. And now given the opportunity to scale that out to retailer networks using lookalike modeling and all of the machine learning capabilities that we have at our disposal now, it's a fascinating time to be in digital marketing and performance marketing.
Well, so clearly I see we have Puppy these days, which is profit per user per year. Why can't we have Kitty? Because I have two kittens, Zora and Zane, and we gotta have a kitty.
Shameless plug.
We gotta have it.
Okay.
Well, the last question usually on the show usually looks a little bit future forward, and that's the nature of how I put this in front of you. Are there any emerging trends in this space, digital and e-commerce, beyond what we have discussed today, that you are following, you have interest in, and that you actually recommend that our audience and we also look into? And what about those things would actually intrigue you that you actually become a follower?
So for me, in terms of looking into my crystal ball into the future, I see three areas that really excite me. One is the connected consumer. Two is the metaverse, and we can go deep into the metaverse. And three is what I call seamless commerce. I don't know what else it could be called, but I'm defining it as seamless commerce. So one, coming back to the connected consumer. So personally, I share my health data with Apple. with Apple Health, and I have a very connected home. When I walk past my Alexa devices, I hope they don't go off now. But when I walk past my Alexa devices and they're constantly giving me suggestions on stuff that I should rebuy or stuff that I should consider buying, I find that really cool. And given how the performance of Prime and the promise of Prime is very good, and an excellent service provided by Amazon, I find that really convenient, and I think more consumers are going to find that very convenient. So as users opt into providing companies more of their data for additional value and additional utility, again, I think it's a very exciting time to be in digital marketing and in e-commerce. Secondly is the metaverse. Now, a lot of fashion brands, cosmetic brands, a lot of alcohol brands as well have made a huge splash within the metaverse. And I think CPG might be a bit, I don't want to say late to the game in terms of the metaverse, but in terms of understanding how, as a CPG company, we enter the metaverse and how do we have to activate within the metaverse. That is an interesting piece that I'm trying to get together in my head. Now, from a definition of metaverse, it's not necessarily just Decentraland or Fortnite or all of the Facebook properties, etc. It's also things like Clubhouse. So for me, it's, how do we in real time engage with our consumers and provide that value to them for, categories that we are the experts in. So that's something, we haven't solved yet. I don't think many CPGs have solved yet, but is certainly something that we need to look at urgently, because right now it's 16 to 26-year-olds that are on in the metaverse and actively participating in the metaverse. But very shortly, those 16 to 26-year-olds are going to be in their 30s, and suddenly for a category like infant nutrition, that's going to be very interesting for us. And then thirdly, which is seamless commerce. Seamless commerce to me is really thinking about 5 to 10 years in the future, when all of these technology companies specifically have all of this information on us, and as the convergence of commerce in all of the properties and the convergence of media across all of the properties come together, and basically they know so much about us already, how does that actually interact and play with us as a consumer? So how, from a predictive point of view, I think the way in which brands will engage with consumers will become way more seamless, because they'll know who to get to. Now, privacy is a big part here, and privacy is one of the things that's slowing down progress. I don't want to say slowing down progress, but slowing down the rate of growth here in the West versus more of the Eastern markets. But still, there's plenty of opportunity to look at adding that incremental value, but getting the permission from consumer to do so.
I'd like to remind our audience that all of our content, 200 plus episodes and so much more, you can get to it simply by going to cpgguys.com and choosing the platform that you prefer. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible. They're like 40 plus, Shri, a lot. And of course, if you think you have something to contribute to the conversation, like Imteaz did today, why don't you just email us at contact@cpgguys.com. Tell us what you're thinking about, what you think we should be talking about. Maybe we can have you on the podcast and we can work through this together. I'd really love to thank you, Imteaz, for joining us on the podcast. As I mentioned, everyone, there's hyperlinks to his LinkedIn profile and, of course, Reckitt's site and LinkedIn page as well. Thanks so much for joining us. We talked about performance. We talked about puppy. We had a lot of P's in there. So thank you for what was really a delightful conversation today.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Shri. It was a pleasure to catch up.
So, Shri, I'm going to turn to you and say, can you give us highlight summaries of what really stood out with Imteaz's conversation?
First of all, Peter, when you talk two topics, 1P data and retail media, you had as a hello.
That was the way.
There's nothing else that we need to discuss. We got a little bit into the world of performance marketing, the attributes that matter, and even some opinions on where they should sit, right? Versus traditionally, it's all over the place in CPG land these days. We also answer the question, does D2C matter? And within the yes/no question is, if it matters, what matters? How you need to focus on D2C. Overall, I think we've gone the spectrum of digital and e-commerce capabilities, what matters, what's next, what people should follow. But we've hit upon some of the hot topics in the industry: performance marketing, 1P, retail media, D2C, things of that nature. This is a very digital transformation-oriented episode. And for that, Imteaz, I thank you.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts to this. Thank you very much. All right, and with that, Shri, I'll thank you for joining us as always. It's a great journey. Let's do another 200. What do you think?
I think the sky is limitless.
I think we can do that.
Yep.
I don't just stick together with you for the kids. You know I love you, man.
There we go.
And to our audience, I want to thank you for joining us today. It was a great conversation. We look forward to having you listen in on the next episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Goodbye. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.